Let me ask you something. Why do you do what you do? Not the surface answer, not the safe answer, but the real one. Because the truth is, when you know why you get out of bed every morning, you no longer need motivation. You have direction. Most people wake up reacting to life. They chase money, titles, approval, or comfort. And when those things disappear, as they always do, they feel lost. But people with a powerful mindset don't start with results. They start with purpose. When your actions are rooted in meaning, setbacks don't break you. They refine you. Here's the shift that changes everything. Stop asking, what do I want right now? Start asking, who do I want to become? Because short-term comfort is easy, long-term growth is hard, and that's exactly why it works. Discomfort isn't a warning sign, it's a compass. If something feels uncomfortable, unfamiliar, or challenging, it usually means you're moving forward, not backward. The problem is most people quit too early, not because they can't do it, but because they don't see immediate results. But success doesn't work on your timeline. It works on principles. Consistency beats intensity. Every time. You don't need to feel inspired every day. You need a system that carries you on the days you don't. Small actions, done daily, with intention. And here's the final truth, the most powerful mindset shift of all. Life isn't about what you can get. It's about what you can give. When your work serves something bigger than yourself, you gain resilience. You gain clarity. You gain fulfillment. Because purpose-driven people don't burn out. They build legacies. So if you want a mindset that changes your life immediately, start with why. Embrace discomfort. Stay consistent. Think long-term. And serve something meaningful. Do that, and success becomes inevitable. Most people move through life focused on what they are doing and how they are doing it, what job they have, what goal they're chasing, how they can make more money, gain more recognition, or reach the next milestone faster. But very few stop long enough to ask the question that truly matters. Why am I doing this at all? Your why is not a goal. It is not a paycheck, a title, or a destination. Those are outcomes. Your why is the reason you choose to keep going when the outcomes feel far away. It is the belief that gives meaning to your effort, even when no one is watching and nothing seems to be working yet. When people lack clarity of why, they rely on motivation, and motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. It depends on mood, energy, and external validation. But when you are clear on why you do what you do, motivation becomes unnecessary. Direction takes its place. You no longer need to feel inspired to act because your actions are anchored to something deeper than emotion. Clarity creates confidence. Not the loud, showy kind of confidence, but the quiet kind. The kind that allows you to say no to opportunities that don't align with who you are. The kind that helps you stay focused while others are distracted by shortcuts and quick wins. When you know your why, comparison loses its power because you are no longer running someone else's race. People who start with why don't panic when progress is slow. They understand that meaningful work is built over time. They are willing to endure uncertainty because they believe in the reason behind their effort. This belief doesn't eliminate fear, but it gives fear context. It turns fear into a sign that something important is at stake. Your why also shapes how others experience you. People are drawn to clarity. They trust those who stand for something, even if they don't fully agree with it. When your actions are consistent with your purpose, your message becomes believable. You don't need to convince others of your value. They can feel it in your consistency. Starting with why changes decision-making. Instead of asking, will this make me more money? You begin to ask, does this move me closer to what matters? Instead of asking, is this easy? You ask, is this meaningful? These questions filter distractions and simplify complexity. A clear why turns obstacles into tests of commitment rather than reasons to quit. It reminds you that setbacks are not proof of failure, but part of a process aligned with something bigger than immediate results. It gives you a reason to show up on the days when enthusiasm is absent and doubt is loud. When your why is clear, your actions gain coherence, your energy becomes focused, your effort feels intentional rather than exhausting. You stop chasing validation and start building alignment. You stop reacting to life and start leading it. Most people are not held back by a lack of ability. They are held back by a preference for comfort. Short-term comfort feels safe, familiar, and reassuring. It promises quick relief and immediate reward, but comfort has a hidden cost. It trades future strength for present ease, and over time that trade becomes expensive. Long-term thinking requires patience, and patience is uncomfortable. It asks you to work without applause, to commit without guarantees, and to trust progress you cannot yet see. This is why so few people practice it. The human brain is wired to seek instant gratification, but meaningful success operates on delayed results. What you do consistently over time matters far more than what you do occasionally with intensity. Short-term thinking asks, what will make me feel better right now? Long-term thinking asks, what will make my life better later? These two questions often lead to very different choices. One leads to distraction, avoidance, and quick wins. The other leads to discipline, sacrifice, and steady growth. The difference between the two is not intelligence or talent, but perspective. People who think long-term understand that progress is rarely dramatic. It is usually quiet and repetitive. It shows up as small improvements that compound slowly. While others look for shortcuts, long-term thinkers build foundations. They are willing to appear slow in the beginning because they understand that speed without stability eventually collapses. Short-term comfort often disguises itself as self-care. It tells you to rest when you should practice, to quit when you should adapt, and to avoid discomfort at all costs. True growth, however, requires strategic discomfort, not reckless exhaustion, but intentional effort. The kind of effort that stretches your capacity and strengthens your resilience. Long-term thinkers delay pleasure not because they dislike enjoyment, but because they value impact. They choose habits over impulses and systems over moods. They design their lives around principles rather than reactions. When motivation fades, their structure remains. This mindset also changes how failure is perceived. In a short-term frame, failure feels personal and final. In a long-term frame, failure becomes data. It offers feedback, not judgment. It reveals what needs adjustment rather than what should be abandoned. This allows learning to replace shame and persistence to replace panic. Long-term thinking builds emotional stability. When results fluctuate, identity does not. When setbacks occur, purpose remains intact. This stability allows consistent action even in uncertain conditions. It prevents overreaction to temporary losses and overconfidence in temporary wins. Choosing long-term growth over short-term comfort means accepting that some days will feel unrewarding. Effort will not always feel meaningful in the moment, but over time, the accumulation of disciplined choices creates momentum. What once required force begins to feel natural. What once felt uncomfortable becomes familiar. The future you is shaped by the decisions you make when no one is watching, when comfort is tempting, and when progress feels invisible. Long-term thinking is not about sacrificing happiness. It is about building a life where fulfillment is sustainable rather than fleeting. Discomfort is often misunderstood. Most people experience it and immediately assume something is wrong. They interpret resistance as a warning, uncertainty as danger, and fear as a reason to retreat. But discomfort is not an enemy. It is information. It is a signal that you are stepping beyond what is familiar and predictable. Growth does not happen inside comfort zones. Comfort zones are designed to preserve the status quo, not to expand capacity. When you feel uncomfortable, it usually means you are challenging an old pattern, testing a new skill, or confronting a belief that no longer serves you. These moments feel unsettling because they demand adaptation, and adaptation requires effort. People who grow learn to reframe discomfort. Instead of asking, how do I get rid of this feeling? They ask, what is this feeling trying to teach me? This shift in perspective changes everything. Discomfort becomes a guide rather than a threat. It points toward areas where development is possible. Fear often shows up before progress. Not because you are incapable, but because what you are attempting matters. The body reacts to uncertainty by increasing alertness. The heart beats faster. The mind looks for escape. These responses are not signs of weakness. They are signs of engagement. The mistake is believing that fear means stop rather than prepare. Avoiding discomfort creates stagnation. When you consistently choose what is easy, you reinforce existing limits. Skills remain undeveloped. Confidence remains conditional. Potential stays theoretical. Over time, the avoidance of discomfort creates a deeper discomfort known as regret. Those who move forward despite discomfort build trust with themselves. Each time they act in the presence of fear, they prove that feelings do not control behavior. This builds internal credibility. Confidence grows not from success alone, but from evidence that you can endure challenge and remain committed. Discomfort also reveals priorities. If something is uncomfortable yet important, it deserves attention. If it is uncomfortable and meaningless, it can be released. Learning to distinguish between these two requires self-awareness. Without this awareness, people either force themselves through everything or avoid everything. Strategic discomfort is intentional. It is chosen, not chaotic. It involves stretching limits without breaking them. It respects recovery while still demanding effort. This balance allows sustainable growth rather than burnout. Many people wait for discomfort to disappear before taking action, but discomfort rarely fades first. Action changes the relationship to discomfort. Movement creates clarity. Engagement reduces fear. Momentum replaces hesitation. Discomfort is temporary. Avoidance is cumulative. Each avoided challenge strengthens the belief that you cannot handle difficulty. Each faced challenge weakens that belief. Over time, what once felt overwhelming becomes manageable, and what once felt impossible becomes routine. When discomfort is treated as a stop sign, potential is abandoned. When it is treated as a signal, capacity expands. The direction of growth is rarely comfortable, but it is always informative. The path forward is often marked by uncertainty, resistance, and doubt. Not because you are on the wrong path, but because you are moving beyond the boundaries of who you used to be. Motivation is often celebrated as the driving force behind success, but motivation is unstable. It rises with excitement and falls with fatigue, doubt, or distraction. When people depend on motivation, their progress becomes unpredictable. They act when they feel inspired and pause when they don't. Over time, this creates cycles of enthusiasm followed by frustration. Consistency operates on a different principle. It does not ask how you feel, it asks what you have committed to. Consistent action is quiet, repetitive, and often unglamorous. It lacks the emotional highs of motivation, but it delivers something far more valuable: reliability. Reliability compounds into results. People who rely on motivation often overestimate what they can do in a short period and underestimate what they can do over time. They push hard for a few days, then stop when energy fades. Consistent thinkers focus on sustainability. They design routines that can be maintained even on difficult days. This allows progress to continue when motivation is absent. Consistency builds identity. Each repeated action reinforces the belief, "This is who I am." A person who writes every day becomes a writer. A person who trains regularly becomes disciplined. Identity-based habits are harder to break because they are tied to self-perception rather than emotion. Motivation responds to results. Consistency creates them. When people wait to feel motivated before acting, they surrender control to circumstance. When they act consistently, motivation often follows. Progress generates evidence, and evidence strengthens belief. Systems support consistency. Willpower alone is unreliable. Environments, schedules, and structures reduce friction and decision fatigue. When actions are built into routines, they require less mental energy. This frees attention for quality and improvement rather than constant decision-making. Consistency also normalizes effort. When action becomes routine, resistance decreases. The task stops feeling extraordinary and starts feeling expected. This shift reduces procrastination and increases follow-through. What once required persuasion becomes automatic. Setbacks do not disrupt consistent people the way they disrupt motivated people. A missed day is not a reason to quit. It is a deviation, not a verdict. Consistency allows for imperfection because the focus is on patterns, not isolated events. Motivation seeks excitement. Consistency seeks progress. Excitement fades quickly, but progress accumulates slowly. This accumulation creates momentum. Momentum reduces effort. Over time, what was once difficult becomes manageable, and what was once manageable becomes natural. Consistency requires humility. It asks you to show up without guarantees of recognition. It asks you to trust process over praise. This humility strengthens resilience and reduces dependence on external validation. When consistency becomes the priority, effort is no longer debated daily. The question shifts from, do I feel like doing this, to this is what I do. This removes internal negotiation and preserves energy for execution. Motivation is a spark. Consistency is the engine. Sparks can ignite action, but engines sustain movement. People who build engines do not wait for perfect conditions. They move steadily, adjust along the way, and let time work in their favor through repeated, intentional action aligned with commitment rather than mood. Most people are taught to measure success by what they accumulate. More money, more recognition, more influence. While these outcomes can be motivating, they are unstable foundations for fulfillment. When achievement is driven only by self-interest, satisfaction tends to be short-lived. The moment one goal is reached, another appears, and the sense of emptiness returns. A service-oriented mindset shifts the focus outward. Instead of asking, "What can I gain?" the question becomes, "Who can I help?" This shift does not diminish ambition. It gives ambition direction. When effort is connected to improving the lives of others, work gains meaning beyond personal reward. People who prioritize service tend to build stronger relationships. Trust grows when intentions are clear and self-serving agendas are absent. Others feel valued rather than used. This trust becomes a powerful currency. Opportunities emerge not because they are demanded, but because they are offered. Service creates resilience. When challenges arise, a purpose tied to others provides strength that self-focused goals cannot. Quitting becomes harder when your work impacts more than just you. Responsibility deepens commitment. Effort feels necessary rather than optional. A service-first mindset also enhances leadership. Leaders who serve create environments where people feel safe, respected, and motivated. Productivity increases not through pressure, but through belonging. People do their best work when they believe they matter. Service encourages long-term thinking. Helping others is rarely about immediate reward. It requires patience, empathy, and consistency. These qualities align naturally with sustainable growth. Over time, value created for others returns in unexpected ways, often multiplied. Self-focused success often demands constant validation. Service-driven success is internally anchored. Fulfillment comes from contribution rather than applause. This reduces anxiety and comparison. Progress is measured by impact rather than image. Serving others sharpens self-awareness. It requires listening, understanding needs, and adapting responses. This process develops emotional intelligence. It expands perspective beyond personal experience. Over time, this awareness improves decision-making and problem-solving. A service mindset does not mean neglecting oneself. It means aligning personal growth with contribution. Skills are developed not just for advancement, but for usefulness. Knowledge is pursued not just for status, but for application. When people feel genuinely helped, they remember, they advocate, they support. This creates networks built on respect rather than transactions. Such networks are resilient and enduring. Service transforms work into purpose. Even routine tasks gain significance when they contribute to something meaningful. This reduces burnout and increases engagement. Effort feels worthwhile because it matters to someone else. The most lasting success stories are rarely about individuals who took everything for themselves. They are about individuals who solved problems, lifted others, and created value beyond their own needs. When service becomes the foundation, success becomes a byproduct rather than the goal. And fulfillment emerges from knowing that your effort made a meaningful difference in the lives of others.